Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Hi, everybody. It's Sunday, so that means it's time for another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. What's going on, Fruit Loop?
Oh, nothing much. Been a day of research.
Yeah, we've been going hard on this case all day with the murder of Victoria Rose and looking into the past of the two people accused of her murder, Ariel and Austin Robinson. But first, we just kind of have had a few questions since we started covering this case, which is local for us. And we've gained a lot of local listeners. So we just want to say hello to everybody really quick. And we have a shout out.
We do. Shout out to Lindsay in Michigan. Thanks for listening. And thanks for reaching out.
Hey, Lindsay. We appreciate you. So a lot of people have asked how we know each other. Our new listeners, do you want to enlighten them on the coolest day ever when you met me?
Yeah. So we've known each other since middle school, and then we played sports together in high school. So we've just always been best friends, and you form bonds when you play sports with people, and so we just been best friends. And
she knows way too much about me at 43 to
she wants to keep me around.
I can't, we can't. No, we have the best friendship. My kids they think Aunt Fruit Loop's the best thing ever. Our families are like family, and like yesterday you were up at my aunt and uncle's. I wasn't there, so we're past the friendship. She's like a bonus sister. I don't have a sister, so you're like a sister.
Yeah.
I have a brother. We both have older brothers.
Yep.
Bless our hearts.
Everybody knows how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Bless our hearts. So we're going to do a quick Vallow Daybell update real quick before we jump into the bulk of our episode. And so what's John Pryor doing?
What in the world?
Oh, boy.
So he files a paper with a court, and it's like saying that he's had a great experience in the Fremont County Jail, that Chad's been taken care of. He hasn't had any problems like Mark Means has. And you had a great theory on that about the meaning.
Totally forgot it. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So you new listeners, you're going to realize that sometimes my thoughts just exit my brain as fast as they came in, and then Fruit Loop's left holding the bag.
Yeah. Well, it could be that your dad made this awesome beef vegetable soup.
It was so good.
Yeah. And then
we're sort of in food comas right now.
Yeah. Then your daughter brought those pralines in. So.
Oh, I know. So good.
Yeah.
No, I've had the theory, and I said it months ago on this show. I think Chad flipped on her pretty soon after he was arrested.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, no, they're together. But the big thing for me was the fact that in none of the filings, Pryor always referred to her as Vallow, to where Mark Means referred to her as Daybell.
Yep.
So I don't know. I just, with these little filings, first of all, this could be common. I don't think I've ever seen a lawyer file something with the court just to say they're happy.
Yeah. We're happy over here.
We're good.
You've taken great care of us.
But it's the total opposite of what Mark Means is claiming. So I wonder why he just, to me, this is just like, we're doing our own thing over here. We're not even associated with these people.
Yeah. I'm divorcing Mark Means. I don't want anything to do with him. I'm over here. Yeah, even though Pryor drives me insane, but
yeah, same.
It was kind of comical. Like,
I mean, he drives me crazy. Look, everybody, as much as people deserve what they get in prison, life in prison, whatever, everybody's entitled to a defense. That's how the justice system works. So we make fun a lot. We're just, I don't know. I have a hard time. Some people say we go too easy on people, but I don't feel like filling this podcast with just mean comments as much, even though we may think them. We think them just like you do. We kind of got fussed at a little bit on Twitter this week about saying we felt sorry for Emma Daybell. Well, of course I feel sorry for her. It doesn't mean that I ain't judging her for what she did in the past.
Yeah.
We just try to keep it clean on here. And you guys know how we feel. So there's no point in saying it every 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's not healthy, I don't think.
No, and no.
And you have family members who didn't choose to go down this road. So,
and we have family members from all these cases that listen to this, and I'm not going to judge anybody. Just like with Ariel Robinson, you know, her parents, her kids, her sister, whatever. That's not for us to even talk about.
No,
these people did nothing. Yeah. So that was kind of all about Chad. We are definitely going to cover them pretty much on every podcast in some form.
When Means and Pryor drop little nuggets out
in the
here
color.
and there. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of all with that. Nothing else has happened. Lori is coming up a week from today, I believe. She has been in the pokey a year.
Yeah.
Whole year. Remember when it felt like she was never going to be arrested?
Oh, I know, right?
I mean, these kids disappeared in September. She was free until February.
Yeah.
So luckily in this case, we have our two suspects in custody very quickly.
Yep.
So we have been looking back through filings with Greenville County for taxes, anything we could find just to give a little bit of insight into these people.
Yep.
And we told you on the show the last episode that their house was in foreclosure and was actually scheduled to or no, I'm sorry. They
defaulted on their
because of COVID. So they kind of got like a reprieve for a bit. But I tweeted out and put on Facebook today the latest filings in this case, and it looks like they would have come up about February 21st, where the protection for foreclosures and evictions was going to run out. Yeah.
And like you said, COVID caused a delay and all that stuff, but it gives you a little bit of foundation of what they were looking at.
Right. And not only were they facing foreclosure on their house, we also found that the taxes on their cars, they had one car in 2018, and then they had 4 cars for 2019 and one for 2020 that the taxes were not paid on, for a total of $822.41. So not only is their house in foreclosure, it looks like they weren't paying their vehicle tax for a couple of years.
Yep.
And what happens when you don't pay your tax?
You don't get your little sticker.
Yeah.
And then you're driving around on an expired tag.
And we don't know that was the case. But it does show that with the foreclosure and not being able to pay their taxes starting in 2018, and then the latest that came due was 2020, it doesn't look like they were in the best financial shape.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm not saying that finances dictate love. We're trying to figure out what was missed, what red flags. To me, financial issues where you've got filings with Greenville County are legal financial issues that would impact you being able to take care of one kid, much less 3.
Yeah, it just, when things are tight like that, there can be stress. And it doesn't matter, where you are, but when you're struggling to make payments and pay your bills, it's stressful. So bringing 3 extra kids in is tough.
Well, and you think about, what if they had not stopped foreclosures, or they didn't extend them as long as they did? She would have essentially been homeless with 3 foster kids.
Yeah.
Which is the same reason the family says the kids ultimately, the mother gave them to DSS, because she just couldn't get what they were asking her to.
Yeah.
And housing was part of that. So it just goes to show you that, I don't know, if we do have friends that are fostering and in the process of adopting in different states, but it's kind of all the same. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
But you researched some criteria for fostering.
I did. And I mean, we talked a little bit about it last week, just the grueling process of getting everything done to foster. And I mean, some of the stuff, like, you have to sign an agreement not to use corporal punishment.
Right.
So, I mean, okay, that's huge. Like, you can't spank your foster kids.
No.
And as we know, they were not adopted yet, so they were still foster kids.
Right.
So that was one of them. Some of the other stuff is putting their photos on social media.
And they were all over.
Oh my
social
goodness. And that's like a huge no-no.
Yes.
Like, you do not. That's why sometimes you see, if somebody posts something, they may put something over the kid's face, and you don't use their name. Mm-hmm. And that's safety for the kid, and also for the parent, for the biological family,
right? And the foster family. I mean, because obviously, you know, there were no issues with the siblings and
so I mean, you can't do that, and that's like breaking a major rule.
Right.
So for me, that's like a red flag as to I'm going to do what I want.
Right.
I'm not going to follow the rules. So in the process of becoming a foster parent, you go through classes and they teach you all this stuff. Like, they teach you what's going to happen, what you can do, what you can't do. I mean, taking a trip, you have to get permission through DSS if you want to take the foster kids on a trip. Mm-hmm. You've got to get permission from DSS to cut their hair, like all these things. But you go through all these classes and you learn. You're not getting an infant. You're not getting a quote. I don't want to use the word normal, but these kids have been through a stressful situation.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all three, especially these three kids, they were old enough to understand that they were being taken from their family.
Right.
Like, they understood that. Mm-hmm. So there's stress and there's things that those kids will go through that is hard. And you're bringing them into your home, so you have to know how to help them. I mean, that's your job, is to make them feel loved and take care of them. So some of the other stuff was if the kids are school aged and they come, DSS comes to make a visit. We know that the majority of the visits during COVID have been virtual, and that's an issue. Mm-hmm. We talked about it. There can be so many things hidden on a virtual visit. And I don't understand that. Like, I visited during COVID, and we may visit outside. And I don't work for DSS, but I'm just saying, like, in general, just visiting, I don't know why something like that can't be done. Mm-hmm. But we do know this. As of last week, DSS is starting in-home visits again.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if this case prompted that.
Yeah.
Because there are so many kids in foster care here in Greenville. Thank you for having my back. I had a god-awful sound come through my headphone. I think I lost hearing in my right ear when I had that pause. I was just trying not to make a noise, but it was...
You were pointing at me, and I'm like, why are you pointing at me?
Because I couldn't hear, and it was affecting everything.
Oh, I didn't hear it. So
it was a loud noise in my right ear. Yeah, and the thing is, I understand that we're in a pandemic, and this is like, we haven't dealt with this in our lifetime. But when you go virtual you can coach kids before they go on FaceTime and say, hey, you better sit there and smile and say things are great.
Yep.
I'm sure the boys probably weren't visited in school this year if they're doing everything virtual. So to me, it's kind of like when you look at the tax situation where the house is going in foreclosure, they can't pay their taxes on their cars. And then it's just like so many what ifs. What if we weren't in this pandemic and they were getting random visits? It's just, that's the worst part of stuff like this, because you always try to go back and fix it in retrospect.
Yeah.
What if we would have done this or that? But you can't. So then, like the family is trying to do, you try to make changes for another child in the future.
Yeah. And right now, DSS visits once every 30 days. So that's once a month that kids are being, like, DSS goes out once a month and checks on them. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's enough.
No, it's not.
I mean, I honestly don't. Like, that's one time a month. And I've spoken with families who are fosters, and they're okay with them coming out more.
Well, yeah, if you're doing everything right, there should be no reason.
Yeah. Yep. And the people that I know foster and have adopted and stuff, I mean, they're amazing people. And I think it's a calling. Not everybody's cut out to be a foster parent or an adoptive parent, because it's a different situation.
It is. And I mean, there have been times as a mother where, I was pregnant with my 3. I have my own biological kids. And there are times, even after birthing these kids, you're exhausted and you have no energy, but sometimes I think that maternal biological bond sometimes is the strongest thing in my life. So if you don't have that biological bond with a child, I guess it's just a lot easier to not feel, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know the words that I'm saying, but that biological bond, some women need that to be mothers and some don't.
Yeah.
So it just takes a very special person to take a child in that you might meet when they're 7 or 8, but you love them as if you got a positive pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And that's most adoptive and foster families.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is. And it's like divorced people coming together who have kids.
Right.
It's not easy.
No.
I mean, it's very difficult. And in foster situations, when you have some biological kids in the home and you have foster kids, obviously you have to discipline different.
Right.
You can't discipline the same. Yes. I mean, one, you're not supposed to use corporal punishment on any foster kid, like we said. But you, too, have to remember, why are you acting out? Why is this happening? Mm-hmm. Because they've been through a lot of horrible things and they've seen stuff and they're not with their family. So you have to treat them different. And that's very hard.
Yeah.
That's very hard to overcome.
Right. And we don't know a lot of the backstory of the kids. We know they were in at least one foster home that obviously took very good care of them. In fact, that foster mom was one of the ones that helped bury her. Yeah. So I don't know. I really, really think, like you say, and we said it every episode since we started covering this, it's got to change. Yep. It's just, you look at so many things in hindsight and you just think, good grief. I mean, these people should have never been given a kid.
Yeah. And I hope that you shared the link on YouTube, I know, and you shared it on the other social media. But I hope this new law that Victoria's family is pushing for, I hope it gets 5 million signatures on it by the time it's done. And
same.
Can be there. There needs to be a change. So I hope they get a lot of. And if you don't want to talk about, we can put it back up, I think.
No, I've got on our Facebook and our Twitter page, that is pinned at the top. So if you go to either one of those pages, the very first post you see will be a link to sign that. That petition. Yep. And I do think that just the threat of random unannounced visits would maybe decrease.
Yeah. Like I don't understand. I mean, I do understand announced because you can prepare, but if I were a worker, I wouldn't want you to prepare.
Right.
I want to see what your home is like on a normal day without you knowing I'm coming.
Exactly.
What does your home look like? What are your kids doing? Like, because, I mean, anybody can prepare.
Right. Yeah, of course. If I know you're coming, my house is going to be so clean and, my kids are going to be dressed nice to where if you come on a random time, you've come in here and it's like it's
I want to see, I want to see the real,
I
want to see the real house.
Yeah. Like, 2 kids wrestling in the floor. I got dog food all over my shirt, got food on my shirt. It's not, and that's normal. Nobody expects a family to be perfect all the time. It's not Leave It to Beaver. Yeah,
to me, you're setting up for failure. Sure. If you let somebody know you're coming all the time, like, I think you're setting up for a failure.
Oh, yeah.
Because anybody can make anything look good.
And then the kids get conditioned to, hey, when they're here, we got to be on our best behavior and act like everything's perfect.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not. And then I think virtual just, for a lot of kids, and we know even kids not in foster, there's so many issues with people being home all the time. We've got, kids that are having problems in school, whatever. But I just can't believe that these kids are put in a home in March of last year, and from what we understand, probably were not visited in person.
Yeah.
Maybe once, if at all.
Yeah. The other thing, and I know when COVID first started, I read an article, and it talked about that DSS was worried and the school systems were worried because of kids being at home. And if you're in an abusive home,
right,
that a lot of times the school is what catches it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in an abusive home and you're not having to go to school, there's nobody seeing bruises. There's, none of that's going on. So that was a fear from the get-go. I know it was in our state.
Yes.
And I'm sure it was everywhere, that these kids, are you getting enough to eat? And in our state, in our county, they did a great job feeding the kids and stuff. So, because some kids don't have money to eat, and that's the only time they got to eat was at school. So all those things come into play. There's got to be a change. So sign that I just lost the word.
Petition.
There
You're
we go.
welcome.
Sign that petition so we can get this Victoria's law changed. So
now,
and when I was thinking about, we talked about the other day about when you can drop a kid off at a fire station, a police station, or a church. That's called Daniel's Law. So I'm sure that law has to do with some kid named Daniel who was harmed. I don't know the whole backstory, but it's called Daniel's Law. So let's get a Victoria's Law in there where we can make changes and just do something positive.
Yes.
So
going back kind of earlier in the podcast, I was over here trying not to lose my hearing, but you were talking about not being able to post pictures, and yeah, I have friends who are fostering and in the process of adopting, and you see the stickers on the kids' faces and that kind of thing, and they're very protective. But I saw a clip on her Instagram. I was going through watching all of her Instagram videos, and I don't know if they blurred it out, but there was a picture when she was on the show, on the Worst Cooks of America or whatever it's called.
Yep.
There was a picture of all 5 kids together. And it almost maybe looked like a church picture.
Gotcha.
I don't know if the kids' faces were blurred out, but I forgot to mention that earlier, is that not only, is she posting these kids pretty much nonstop on her Instagram, especially Victoria. It was all posed pictures of Victoria. But so if what I'm saying is this, if somebody in DSS watched that show and knew she had these kids and saw that picture, I'm just curious how many times were things, was it a situation where things were seen that could have been raised, where there's a little bit more surveillance on them with the kids? Because there were signs out there that she was bending the rules to what she wanted to do now that we know they weren't formally adopted.
Yep.
So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. Yep. So, you went back, and in August of 2019, Ariel announces on her Instagram that there's a newborn baby girl she's going to adopt.
Yeah. So we've poured through the podcast, what YouTube videos we could find, all the Instagram pictures and videos. So August of 2019 was when she made a video that they had been placed with the girl. And we talked about that on the last one. If you remember, they were asking for $30 in donations. So this was around the time.
$30,000.
$30,000. What did I say?
$30.
Oh, Lord. It's
a little off.
It's past my bedtime, y'all. We got a really late
really
start.
Is. She's been over here yawning like the last 45 minutes. I'm like, one time I thought she had found something like really good because it was like this huge.
Yeah, she was like, what did you find? Because we were both, okay, so our setup, we do not have a serious bone in our body off of this podcast, and anybody who knows us can attest to this. So I have a big iMac, and she has a big computer, and we literally cannot see each other, because if we could see each other, we would laugh the whole time. Even though we're on a podcast about serious stuff, that's just how we are. If she looks at me wrong, I'm dead. Yeah. So
we're not laughing at what's going on. We just can't. We cut up a lot. So.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
So it seemed like she really had her heart set on this baby. It was due November 2019.
Yeah, so it was like an infant
Right. It was a newborn.
Yeah, the mom was still pregnant.
Yes. And so somebody asked her, well, you have 2 kids. Why do you want to adopt? And she said that she had complicated pregnancies, but always wanted a daughter.
Yep.
So at that point, she was getting the nursery ready. People were buying stuff for her. She was showing videos on Instagram where she was opening presents, that kind of thing.
And this was a private adoption.
Right. So this is different. They went through a Christian organization with that.
Yep.
And we confirmed that the 3 kids were DSS kids. This was not private. This was a public state adoption.
Through DSS, yep.
So the last post prior to when they would have gotten this baby is October 2019, and she didn't post again until January. So sometime between October of 2019 and January, that fell through. We don't know why, if it was financials, if it was red flags or anything, but it didn't go through.
Yep.
And
I think she had 2 months to raise $30,000.
Yeah, and so at one point she had done a video in September and announced they had raised $2,000, and then she asked for 200 people to donate $10, which would put them at their goal.
Yeah. Now I know, because at first I was like, okay, you're asking for all this money, but it did go to that agency. They never saw a dime of it.
Yeah, and I mean I know people do this all the time.
Yeah. GoFundMe.
Right.
I need a new car.
And that's okay if the kids are, I don't mind giving money to a family that needs it. It's just, I mean, can you imagine the people that donated?
Yeah.
What they think now? I mean, it's not their fault, but I'm just saying what I have learned combing through her social media is what obviously happened behind closed doors is the exact opposite of what she projected publicly. And I mean, that happens all day, every day. Unfortunately, in this case, it resulted in a child being murdered.
Yep.
But so I think, I mean, and the one thing that we do on this podcast is any of you who listen to legal podcasts, we speculate. Once all the facts are out for the moment, kind of what most people do that do what we do is they start combing through social media. And so it kind of can give you a good idea of how somebody is, what makes them tick, what makes them mad, what makes them happy. And it was very enlightening on her social media.
Yeah, you learn to read people.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. And who you are comes out on social media. I'm sorry. Some people can hide behind stuff, but it's just stuff you do that you continue to do and do and do. And she posted a lot on social media.
Oh, yeah. She was super active. Actually tweeted 3 times the morning Victoria Rose was murdered.
Yep.
I think the last post was like 8:05 a.m.
Yeah.
So when she came back on Instagram, the first post wasn't any kind of an explanation or what happened to that adoption. She just talked about politicians and kind of like what people post on Facebook. Because if you can imagine, January 2020, everybody's fighting on Facebook about politics, and everybody still is. But, so that was her first post was more along those lines.
Yep. So she had, it was typical of someone fresh off a reality show.
Yeah, her social media definitely. And look, I'm not anybody who rides a 15-minute wave of fame for being on a reality show for a season. They usually can enjoy a little bit of prosperity for about 6 months after in a typical way.
Yeah.
Because the new season comes along, everybody forgets about last season.
Yeah.
She definitely was trying to get something started. It almost seemed like to me, she threw a lot of different angles at the wall, hoping one would stick.
Yeah.
So you kind of have the super mom, you have the reality show winner, you have the fashion mom.
Yeah.
Just not, pretty much showing off hairstyles and clothing of Victoria Rose.
Yeah.
There were so many, I felt like her social media was just all over the place.
Yeah.
So 1 minute it's trying to get a sponsorship from Nike.
Yeah.
Posting pictures of all the kids and her husband and Nike from head to toe.
Yeah.
And then she's got people retweeting her asking for a sponsorship from Nike. So, I mean, I can't say I blame her for trying to profit off of what, a lot of people don't get to go on reality shows. I think she was one of 10,000 that was picked for this show. So I get it.
I think it was 14.
Okay, 14. I
think
mean, it's
it
a
was
lot.
one of-
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I never watched that season. I have no clue, but I knew.
Look, I watched that show.
Did you?
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
I'm like a Food Network junkie. Like, diners, drive-ins, and dives. Oh, my goodness. Like,
See,
I love those shows.
I just want to eat the whole time I'm watching the Food Network.
Yeah, I just like, because I get ideas of what I want to cook. But, yeah, so I have watched that show. Amber Elle, she's, like, really cool. Alex, I can't say her last name, but anyways. But, yeah, like, I like those shows or whatever. But it's going to run out. Like,
Yeah.
your time, your claim to fame is going to run out.
Well, and I almost think that is it a situation, and like I say, we speculate. But okay, so you're getting into January. We don't know why she killed Victoria Rose. We don't know what happened that day. We don't know who's responsible. I mean, between the two.
Yeah.
Who actually killed her.
There's 3 people that know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just kind of feel like with them, one of the things that bothered me so much was how in almost every picture of Victoria, somewhere in the comment section, she would talk about Victoria's attitude.
Yep.
And we've talked to some people that knew Victoria Rose, and they said she was sassy and just spunky and a happy kid and all that. But one post really bothered me, and this is, actually, I don't think it was maybe July of last year. So a lot of the posts, she talks about Victoria being a daddy's girl, but this one is a picture of her holding Victoria, and Victoria's asleep on her chest. And it says, she says something about when we're not arguing. Now this kid's 3.
Yeah.
She acted like it. You would almost think that she was talking about her teenager. The way she talked about this kid in all of these posts. But she called her a frenemy, which is like a friend and an enemy. And in the picture, the one thing that Ariel said is that Victoria never really wanted her to hold her, but when she did, it was a treat. So there's a picture of her asleep and Ariel's holding her. And so for me, I just, you go back and you see a pattern. This kid's got an attitude. She made so many different little comments that a couple of comments about her being jealous of the dad's affection to Victoria.
Yeah.
So it's just not typical for me to see somebody just kind of go on and on and on a lot of posts about a kid having an attitude or a frenemy or I'm not jealous, and the kid's 3.
Yeah, I think it falls into line with, how some people joke about stuff and they can say stuff and you think they're joking, but they're really not.
Right.
Like it's really what they feel.
Yeah.
They're just interjecting, trying to be funny and all that. Like that's kind of what I get from her.
Yes.
Is what she's saying is actually true, but she's trying to portray it as a joke.
Right. And but there were 2 or 3 different comments where she put like, I'm not jealous.
Yeah.
Why would you say that about a 3-year-old that's your foster kid? I mean, is it a situation where her sons and, for whatever time it seemed like to her that this little girl got all the attention, and then because if you look at her social media, she loves attention.
Oh yeah.
So,
but your youngest, from the time that kid was brought into the world, she loves attention.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh,
and
yes.
She would perform like when she was little, when she was 3.
Yes.
I mean, she's singing and
2. I mean, literally like from the time she could formulate a sentence, she was singing songs and performing, and she's almost 10 years old, but she's just a bigger version of herself.
Yeah. And she would drop the mic and walk out the room and
oh yeah.
But you're a kid.
Right. I just can't in any capacity, even joking, call a 3-year-old a frenemy or say I'm jealous of a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
But you do hear, and a lot of times it happens with when daughters are born into families, is I've read so many different articles and stories about moms who never anticipated the absolute jealousy that they felt when their spouse was giving the new kid a lot of attention.
Yep.
So speculation, we have no reason to believe this is the case, but I'm just saying that some of her posts on social media and some of the comments, you know, if you go on Twitter, like you can read tweets that she sent out, but if you go to tweets and replies, that's everything she's replied to. And way down the line, I think I'd been looking at it for an hour and a half, there were still some jealousy comments. So it just don't make sense to me. Yeah. It's just not normal things you talk about.
No. Some of the videos would get me because she would do some where it was like it was sad news. Like one of them, she's literally in the car and she's crying. Now, I think it was edited. She was like wetting her eyes, but she made it seem to be like it was something serious. And she was crying and upset and talking about she felt as a parent and she's raised him in a Christian home and just all these things. And at the end, she says he wants to be a vegan.
Yeah, but it was literally 3 minutes of just this fake crying. And so what we mean by that is just, it seems like she really was putting herself out there in any way she could on her social media. It's almost like it was an audition tape.
Yeah, it's an act. It's like it's an act.
Yeah.
It's a show.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so when she was asked about what she was going to do with the money that she won, which was $25,000, she said she's going to pay her taxes. She didn't. Pay her tithes. We don't know that. And cover all the basics. We're going to try to get some debt paid off and use it for our adoption. We saw some pictures where there were just a lot of shopping sprees.
Yeah.
After she won this money. And I'm not judging. I'm not saying I wouldn't have went to the outlets and filled up a few carts, but I mean, I don't think that money lasted.
Yeah. Well, she said on one of them that that money's gone. Raising all those kids, that money's gone.
But she didn't pay any taxes.
No.
So the other thing that we noticed was body language of Victoria in the pictures with Ariel. What did you see?
I mean, it was her and her brothers. When you're taking a picture with somebody and there's some love there, you normally lean in.
Yeah. And
it seemed to be always she leaned out.
Victoria always seemed to not want to get close to her.
Yeah.
And there, you know, every picture, it seemed like I've seen pictures from family of a regular smile from that kid, and these look like fake smiles. Bless her heart. It almost seemed like performance. You know, every time she did her hair, she had to do, 4 different angles to show the world. And then everybody would praise her, and she, and so she would kind of lap up the praising of how she did her hair that day or the outfit she had her in.
Yeah.
But the baby just looked uncomfortable. She didn't look like she wanted to be around her.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a good indication. We don't know when abuse started. We saw a comment online from a family member who thinks, obviously, and we feel the same, people just don't snap and kill a child. Usually this is a progressive thing.
Yeah.
It gets worse over time.
Yep.
So I feel so bad for those boys and her sons.
I mean, how do you go to, and that's, how do you go to school? They're 12 and 9.
Yeah, they're young.
I mean, how do you go to school and everybody knows that your parents are in jail for killing your adopted sister or your fostered sister?
Yeah, it's just got to be hard. And none of their lives are ever going to be the same.
No.
The boys, Victoria's brothers, or their biological kids, or her family, or his family. It's just their decisions have caused the death of one and have destroyed so many hearts.
Yeah, and I will say this about the bruising and all. I think one of the statements that her husband Austin made was he went to CVS to get medicine to make the bruises go away because she had so many. Not a lot of people know about that.
Right, yeah.
The only reason I know it's called arnica or whatever, but my aunt fell one time face first into her fireplace. Oof. And was bruised up pretty bad. And her doctor told her, go to the store and get this, and it'll take this bruising out. It doesn't remove it all, but it lightens it up a good bit. Mm-hmm. So I find it hard to believe that was the first time that was used.
Yeah, I mean, I did not know there was stuff for bruising over the counter.
Yeah.
So it does make you think. I mean,
was this going on prior to. So
you never know. I mean, I think the thing for the boys is that they were in school. So maybe there was reasonable protection for them with that, to where we know Victoria Rose was home alone with them the day she died. So she's 3 and there's no K4. So she's just home.
yeah.
And it makes you sad to think, if he's at work, the boys are in school, what in the world did that poor kid have to deal with at home alone with her?
Yeah.
Because you're never going to convince me this started the day that she died.
No.
And hopefully these kids can shed some light into the past from the time they were there. Maybe once they're removed from the situation for a while and realize that they're safe now, maybe they feel like they could trust somebody if they haven't already. I mean, kids are very resilient, but these poor boys, to know that they were placed and their sister's gone. I'm going to
tell you something hit me. It was, I don't know, yesterday, today, or whatever it was. I don't remember, but the oldest, I know when my brother, we're 6 years difference in age, and he's always the protector. So what her oldest brother and the middle one, I feel for them, because are they going to hold that guilt of, oh, I was supposed to be the protector. Yeah. I was supposed to look out for my younger sister, and definitely praying for those guys and praying for the foster parents that are taking care of them right now.
Mm-hmm. They've had it rough. I mean, it's just to be taken from your mom or whatever. And then you go to one foster family that's great, seemingly maybe 2. We don't know how many they had before they were placed. And then you go into this.
Yeah.
And it's just predictable. None of the pictures, and I've went through that Instagram, and I've been on her Facebook and everything else. Those kids never really looked comfortable.
No.
And I don't care who had them. If I looked at these pictures, I would say those kids don't look comfortable.
Yeah.
It just did not. It just seemed like she was more happy about it than anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it did look like her boys were sweet to them. I've seen pictures and videos where they have their arm around them or just a little protective hand on them. And so just crazy. I mean, and what's funny to me too is, on a lot of her social media, there were several instances where she talked about specific situations where a child had been harmed. And she would talk about how people need to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law when you hurt a child. And here we are. Yep. And it wasn't one post. I tweeted in Facebook one of those because it just didn't age well. No. I mean, here we are. And several times she's talking about anybody who hurts kids, they're just trash or whatever.
Yeah.
And so just a double life. And we usually find that in these kind of situations when we cover crimes against children. A lot of times it's just everybody who knew them will say, we never would have predicted.
Yeah.
But
they seem like the normal
right
family, laughing, cutting up.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to see the kids' pictures, I always look at body language in pictures just because it tells so much.
Yeah.
But if I were to look at her page, not knowing what I know now, I would think, okay, she's a local lady. She's really trying to make it. She had a little fame. Good for her.
Yeah.
But then, the monster behind closed doors, what we see now, it's just very scary. You don't know people.
Yeah. And and she made the statement on one of the videos that you had to be thick-skinned to live in that family.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause they did go at each other, a good bit. I think there's one that we talked about when her oldest son is trying the fried mushrooms or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells her it's not any good. And then he comes back for more later, but it's just...
But she threatened to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Because she for literally 2 minutes, and it was just really, it reminded me of kind of fishing for a compliment. He's joking around. He's being really funny, the kid, her oldest son. And she's like, tell me they were good. Tell me they were good. These fried mushrooms she had tried for the first time. And he's like, no, they weren't good. And then he comes back and gets one. And, all she wanted for him to do was say, yeah, they were good. It just went on and on and on. But then she says, I'm going to punch him in the face. And she said that in a few videos. And okay, so if I'm watching that and we don't have a dead child, I would probably say, oh, you know, just little rough talk.
Yeah.
But now it's just, according to her, she said she was going to throat punch her kids in front of the DSS worker.
Yeah.
So we were talking, is that comedy? Is that something she threw in that didn't really happen? Or did a DSS worker hear that?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to know when flags should be raised, I think. But man, there were just so many signs everywhere.
Yeah.
And we found them online relatively fast.
Yeah. And we talked about this a little bit. Comedians, as we all know, a lot of them suffer from depression, anxiety, different things like that, because that's how they hide. They make people laugh to hide. And was there issues going on inside of her that's where her comedy came from?
You know, for me, it's just like, you're a grown woman. If you've got issues, I mean, why is she adopting kids?
Yeah.
It's like, none of it makes sense.
Yeah.
And she has issues. She's evil.
Yeah.
To do what she did to that kid, I don't know. I mean, I would be curious to see if DSS was ever called on her boys. You know, were they ever visited in the past before they had fosters? Who knows? But
I would hope not, because if that's the case and they allowed that to happen, oh my goodness.
Right. But you can have DSS come and you know, and then they're like, oh yeah, everything's good.
Yeah.
I mean, but this whole case just bothers me. Every time I see a picture of Victoria Rose, it just rips me up. Yeah.
I was looking at, I've got a great nephew. He's 3. He's the same age as her. And I was looking at him the other night and I was like, how can you get to that point? Like, I don't care what you do, what he does, I'll never get to that point. So how do you look in the face of a 3-year-old little girl and beat her the way you beat her?
Yeah.
And we've discussed that she probably had a brain bleed. She threw up the day before. Like, and we're thinking concussion, because normally with a concussion, that's what happens. So,
yeah.
Like, how do you get to that point?
I don't know. It's hard when you try to get into somebody's psyche who does this kind of stuff. But even at the same time, is it a situation where she singled out Victoria Rose? And is that kind of like a thing where, like we said, jealousy is that it wasn't what she thought it was going to be, and then she becomes resentful? Is it the money? You know, time was running out for their house and she knew it, and now she's got these kids. Who knows? Yeah.
And this is the other thing. So the adoption was going to be final January 19th. That's what we read.
Yep.
So Victoria dies on the 14th. What in your mind, like, you have 5 days before you're going before a judge.
Before you're even arrested.
Yeah. But no, I'm saying, like, to adopt. You're going to go before a judge and and your kids are going to be adopted.
Right.
And you're going to have your 3 kids there, your whole family's there, all that kind of stuff. You do the whole, adoption day thing. So 5 days before that's going to take place, you beat that kid that bad?
To death.
I mean.
Yeah.
How? I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, what if a social worker had popped in that day? I mean, or somebody from DSS. It's just, she seemingly got comfortable with whatever they had going on.
Yeah.
To where she wasn't worried that somebody would come in and see that this child obviously had been beaten.
Yeah. And this is coming from a former school teacher, master's degree, 2 degrees by the time she was 24. According to her.
Right. And another debt also, I just want to throw this in there. She mentioned several times on Instagram comments that she had well over $100,000 in student loan debt as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, good for her for getting a degree. I mean, okay, so that's why we have student loans. But again, it just goes back to that debt ratio of, if you take the house and the car taxes, you're looking at $400,000 or more.
Yeah.
Just in necessity.
Yep.
Like that you can't miss. I mean, you can get like a financial hardship for student loans where they defer your payments for maybe 6 months, but those come due and you can't get out of them. So you just look at the amount of debt just between student loans, house and cars, and they're pulling in, we said maybe $1,500 a month, but we saw a comment on Instagram, and we're not going to say the name, but it gave me a lot of insight into maybe what friends were thinking.
Yeah.
And the guy said, it was Austin who had made a comment, and he said, your name is Jerry, not Austin, and you guys are both jobless, and you're living off of this adoption money.
Yeah.
Or fostering money.
Yeah. But, and I mean, when the adoption was final, so January 19th, that money would have stopped.
Right. So, yeah, you found that out.
Yeah. So, once you're adopted, the money stops. So where do you go from there? Like.
Right. She was 5 days away from all of it being cut off. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason any of this happened, but is that kind of, part of the fuse this lit?
Yeah.
In the back of her mind that this dream of maybe like, I don't know, it almost seemed like she really was flaunting these kids to try to get a reality show or something.
Yeah. It was almost like it almost seemed like a competition with siblings and people in general of, okay, well, this is what I have. Mm-hmm. And this is, with the video with the little newborn that she was supposed to get, like, mm-hmm. I'm finally getting a girl. We saw a video where her sister was having another boy, and it was a big, huge deal. She didn't want another nephew. She wanted a little girl in the family, da-da-da-da-da.
She spent 2 minutes doing the same thing she did in the mushroom video, where she's acting like something terrible has happened.
Yeah.
This is horrible news, worse news, and then it's my sister's having a boy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe somebody was sick or,
like.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a lot of show.
Yeah, a lot of show. It's a lot of flashy show. And I mean, had she not done what she did, I would say she is working the system. She's trying to make something out of her appearance.
Yeah.
But it seems like maybe when that didn't, and then you've got this stuff coming due, February 21st was when that foreclosure would have been able to, and they were able to prosecute it only if it was going to expire due to time.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like a lot of things just kind of came around the bend and it didn't end the way she wanted it. So, 5 days later, she's going to have 3 kids, no money coming in, a house being foreclosed, every car it seems owed taxes on, and student loans.
Yeah.
So that's just some insight. Like we say, we try to find anything we can that might give insight into her way of thinking. And these are just the issues that we've seen that she faithfully posted about randomly.
Yeah.
But
his social media was a lot different. It was mainly wrestling podcast or something.
He did have a couple of pictures where he was cuddling Victoria.
Yeah.
It looked more natural with him.
Yeah.
She looked more comfortable with him, obviously, but so that's kind of what we found so far. We still have a lot of research to do. We have a lot of different ways we do this, and I wouldn't even say we're halfway through.
No.
None of our opinions are fact. We want to make sure we just try to pick through it. And sometimes we're on it and sometimes we're off.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's too far of a stretch if you just kind of know this situation and see what happened on social media to be able to kind of get an idea about maybe where she wanted to go with all this.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe that'll come out in court, and maybe it won't. I don't know.
Yes. So we are still going to try to figure out, how we're going to try to file for some information ourselves. If anything happens about this, we'll hop on and do one of our little sweet tea sessions to keep you guys updated. But we're going to stay on top of this. We're going to keep researching. If there's anything you guys want us to look into, shoot us a message. We try to, if there's something that you guys are interested in us covering, we definitely look and see if we can do it.
Yep.
We want to make you guys happy.
Yep.
And we have fun doing this. We're passionate about justice, but we're not lawyers. I did this years ago for a few years and loved it, but it can get heavy at times.
Yeah.
But something like this, especially being local, we want to push Victoria's Law. We want to see some good come out of this because nothing good's going to come out of it.
Yeah.
Eventually, if we get 2 people, behind bars for life for the death penalty, There's still a dead child.
Yeah.
We have to protect kids in the future.
Yep. And don't let her death be in vain.
Right. We're going to join the family's fight to get this law in place.
Yeah. And one of the cases that we possibly going to pick up is the Orrin and Orson West out of California.
Yes.
The missing kids. So they're still missing. There's a reward out. So we're looking at that one as well. So
yeah, we had a lot of listeners actually recommend that one to us when we said that we were going to start venturing out of the Vallow Daybell case.
Yep.
So, well, that's all we have for you guys. Happy Valentine's Day if you celebrate it.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had a pecan praline.
Oh my gosh.
It was very good. I'm a diabetic. I'm not supposed to eat it, but I did half, so I didn't eat the whole thing.
Oh, they're so good. My daughter got me some for Valentine's Day, and I shared because I'm a good friend. Oh my goodness. It's a downtown. It's what's it called? It's like some kind of street sweets, or it's on Main Street in downtown Greenville.
Is it Kilwins?
I'm trying to look at the bag from across the room, but I can't read it. So anyways, if you're in Greenville, go to the sweet shop on downtown Main Street and get some pralines, because I might fight my mama if she tried to take one.
I'm going to take one before I leave.
I'm going to kick you in the neck.
No, you ain't. So anyways, well, y'all have a good night, and we hope you have a blessed week, and we will see you Wednesday. Or not see you, but
you'll hear us.
You'll hear us Wednesday. Yep.
If you want to.
Yep. Good night.
Night.